New South Wales resumed at 1 for 45, still 3 runs in arrears, and the cause wasn't helped when Mark Taylor, Trevor Bayliss and Mark Waugh went fairly cheaply and the Blues were in all sorts of strife. A big innings was required from Ashes hero Steve Waugh, and he showed glimpses that he may turn the tide. But it wasn't to be, as Rackerman did the trick for Queensland, having Waugh caught by Healy for 13, and New South Wales had slumped to be 5 for 88. Enter nuggety Mark O'Neill and never say die Peter Taylor. O'Neill was lucky to survive before he had scored, and it wasn't from lack of a magnificent effort from Alan Border that O'Neill was still at the crease. From then on, the two batsmen set about restoring the innings. Taylor relished the opportunity to spend time in the middle and at times showed real class with the willow. Taylor made short work of spinner Steve Story, who hasn't enjoyed the best of matches with the ball in his old hometown. And the fielders were starting to wane a little, although for Big Carl, it's a long way down to stop a beautiful off-drive by O'Neill. At lunch, the Blues were effectively 6 for 146, with Whitney unable to bat later. And on resumption, O'Neill went on the attack once again, over the top for 4. His well-deserved 50 came up shortly afterwards to the generous applause of the good crowd. With the score on 174 and the partnership between Taylor and O'Neill worth 86, Taylor played a lazy shot and was easily caught by Smart, and Rackerman had bagged another wicket. O'Neill continued to collar the bowling. This time Rackerman copped the full onslaught of a mighty pull shot. McDermott was reintroduced and with his first delivery, clean bowled O'Neill, who had made a courageous 69. 5 runs later, Peter Cantrell gave Craig McDermott his 3rd wicket with a sensational catch to get rid of Emery. Jeff Lawson smashed one over slips for 3, but the writing was on the wall and it was Dirk Tazalar that bagged the final wicket, having Holdsworth caught behind, and New South Wales were all out with a lead of 163. With rain washing out play for the remainder of the day, it's now in the lap of the gods as to a decision in this enthralling match.
Police have moved quickly to follow up Operation Buckle Up in September this year that caught nearly 100 local motorists in a 48-hour period. Patrols will be targeting shopping centre car parks and roads around schools in a bid to catch careless drivers.
Well, generally people leave the car parks or leave service stations or leave a shopping area without putting their seatbelt on. They should put it on before the car moves.
The impact of a collision involving an unrestrained child travelling in a car at 40 kilometres an hour and a telegraph pole is equal to that of dropping a child from a 3-storey building. Police say many injuries could be prevented if people just took the time to click in their belt before moving off. Throughout today, police caught a number of drivers who failed to belt up after leaving a local shopping centre. One driver had put the children in restraints but forgot her own.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You've been stopped for not wearing your seatbelt. May I see your driver's licence, please? You're not exempt from wearing a seatbelt, are you?
No, I just forgot. Sorry.
You just forgot. Okay then.
Operation Buckle Up will continue until midnight Friday. Darren Curtis for NBN News.
Wyndham Estate owes its financial troubles to its largest shareholder, Quadrax. The chairman of Quadrax is Bob Ansett. Bob Ansett is facing financial ruin and desperately needs cash. His company's 57% holding in Wyndham Estate is worth around $44 million. A management buyout was rumoured, but today came even bigger news. Giant Barossa Valley winemaker Orlando has attacked with an offer to buy out Quadrax and all remaining Wyndham shares, an outlay of around $66 million. The offer is conditional on Orlando receiving 90% of the shares. Once it has that many, it can force the remainder to sell up, and it almost certainly will. However, it's unlikely the South Australian will have to force the issue. It's offering $1.65 for shares which the market rated at $1.40 each. Orlando already holds 17% of the Australian wine market. The purchase of Wyndham Estate will position it alongside Penfolds as the biggest operators in the country. Wyndham Estate directors are considering the offer. However, no answer is expected until it's put formally in another 2 weeks.
The idea came after a student from the uni who loved children tragically died. In her memory, a committee was formed to spread a little cheer. The gifts of all types will be sent out to selected children in caravan parks who, through a program called the Van Leer Caravan Project, have been found to be in special need. With wrapping paper donated from a local company and 130 cards especially written from the people of the C.A. Brown Retirement Village, the presents represent the true spirit of Christmas.
It was more of a relocation for the Charlestown branch as it moved across the highway to brand new premises. The original office was the first in Newcastle, opening its doors on December the 9th, 1964, with Cole Stevenson as the branch manager. Today, almost 25 years to the day, TAB agent Loretta Graham threw the doors open at 11:30 this morning to a new era of betting shops in Charlestown. Mr Stevenson, who recently retired as the regional manager of the TAB, had the honour of filling out the first ticket. And Lorna Patterson, who sold the first ticket way back in '64, was on hand to repeat the task 25 years later. And as with every birthday, especially the 25th, there's the cake. And many agents from other outlets were on hand to watch Loretta and long-time Charlestown customer Dorothy Linehan cut the appropriately decorated masterpiece. The Roomy agency will provide customers plenty of comfort as they have a wager, and the branch is set to become one of the most productive in Newcastle.
Until now, students of occupational therapy had to travel to Sydney. Last year, the Hunter Institute of Higher Education shelved its plans for a degree course. It failed to gain approval despite professional and political support. But now all that is changing.
The occupational therapy, that course will start next year. There's a lot of pent-up demand for that, and we're very pleased at the development.
Also new for next year is the Bachelor of Applied Science, Environmental Assessment and Management, the Bachelor of Information Science and the Graduate Diploma in Health Science.
I think there is a great demand for entry into the caring professions. In social work, for example, we have been wanting to mount a course for well over a decade now. The social work course won't be introduced next year, but it will be introduced in 1991. And we will have a Professor of Social Work taking up post early in the new year.
Its hoped course in radiography will also become a reality in 1991.
These parents were among about 80 who attended a drug education program with a difference at Newcastle High School. The 4-week program is designed to give parents guidance on influencing the attitudes of their children towards drugs and alcohol. Program presenter Laurie Allen Short says interest has never been stronger. She says parents often fail to recognise the impact their behaviour has on their children.
They must be aware that they are role models with drug and alcohol. So if a parent gets home from work and they've had a hard day at work and they reach for the glass of wine or the can of beer, that's as a mean out for coping with their stress.
Drug Service research claims alcohol is playing a larger part in adolescent lifestyles. More than 40% of males and a third of females drink at least once a week. Laurie Allen Short says parents can guide adolescents by recognising that their children also have values.
The adolescents know right from wrong, and if they know the consequences of each action, their correct action or their incorrect action, then they're more capable of making the correct decision.
The program is receiving an overwhelming endorsement from parents anxious to play a greater role in sharing responsibility for drug education.
We were delighted to hear that the school had initiated this in the first place, and we gave it the support that we felt it needed, and as far as I was concerned, it was a very strong good thing to be doing.
A lot of people felt comfortable there. We were able to air our views, and most importantly, I think we all realised that we all had a similar sorts of problem.
Yes.
The mechanical and electrical workshops of the Maritime Services Board at Carrington took out the Dangar Award for non-residential development in the open category. The workshops joined some excellent company in the previous winners, like the Newcastle Conservatorium and the Harbour Foreshore. All other prizes this year went to the Maitland area. The Charles Davis Award for smaller scale non-residential development went to the State Bank offices in Elgin Street. In the residential category, the honours this time around went to the Maitland Benevolent Society's Curtis Wing in Regent Street. This is known as the Menkins Award, and previous winners include the Housing Department's pensioner units in Shepherd's Place at Newcastle East. The Heritage Award goes to the development judged as best incorporating the conservation, preservation or rehabilitation of the building. And the winner this year is a commercial premises at 45 Elgin Street, Maitland, with the construction being supervised by the owner. The winners were selected from 24 entries by a jury made up of architects, planners, builders and representatives from the participating councils.
Glenn Campbell is no stranger to roads, having sung about them and driven on them around the world. But the Hunter's variety still came as a bit of a shock.
I said, they got some great roads in Australia if they ever get them finished. It seemed like every 10 miles or so they got to sign up, men working and so forth. I thought it was the group at first, men at work.
Glenn Campbell is to play at the Civic Theatre tonight. Part of his performance will include new material, which is seeing him soar into the number 7 with a bullet spot in the United States country charts.
Oh, she's gone, 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 gone. Crying won't bring her back. The more that I cry, the faster that plane flies, farther across the sky.
But fans around the world still can't hear enough of the songs which first threw Glenn Campbell into superstardom more than 20 years ago.
I've been walking these streets so long, singing some good old songs. I know every crack in the dirty sidewalks of Broadway.
As often as Glenn Campbell has sung that and other favourite songs, he says he never tires of them.
No, I really don't. Now, if I'd have recorded something like The Twist or Oh, Darling, You Broke My Heart and I'm Gonna Break Your Jaw type of songs, which is the hardcore country, I think that I would probably tire of singing them. But no, Wichita Lineman and Rhinestone Cowboy, I love the philosophy of Rhinestone Cowboy because I like to look the people in the eye and say, there'll be a load of compromising on the road to your horizons. There's been a load of compromising on the road to my horizon, but I want to be where the light is shining on me like a rhinestone.
Paris Pride finished strongly when narrowly beaten in a 1500-metre welter at Rosehill on Saturday. The additional 400 metres of the Cup will be ideal for the New Zealand-bred 5-year-old, and the main opposition will come from Regal Prize and Eye of the Sky. For the Canterbury Daily Double, try Babscay in the first leg, race 6, and Paris Pride in the second leg, race 7. Lightly raced 5-year-old Balmonero is due for a change of luck in tomorrow's Caulfield Welter. Trained by the astute George Hanlon, Balmonero has been runner-up in his past 2 starts in a Sandown Welter and the Ballarat Cup, and is good value at 5-1. So for your trifecta, 6, 3 and 5, Balmonero to beat Akatarawa and Lord Palmerston, and for the Daily Double, Be Quiet in the first leg and Thelma Josephine in the second leg, race 8. The greyhounds strut their stuff at Beaumont Park tomorrow, and Gary Harley suggests Daysword and Diggers Mate for the legs of the Daily Double, and Daysword to beat Nation Lou and Beaujolais for the trifecta. Trotting at Maitland tomorrow night, and Kerwee Girl and Dave's Pride should fill the winner's circle for the Daily Double, and for the trifecta, 5, 4 and 3, Dave's Pride to win from Trojan Leo and Gold Spring.
Safety officers at Lambton Colliery went to great lengths to make sure this rescue exercise was as realistic as possible. The scenario was a typical mining accident.
We had one of our employees involved in an underground transport accident, trapped between two diesel-man transporters, and he had received multiple fractures to the legs and a suspected fractured pelvis. We had a crew go underground, stabilise the patient, put him on a stretcher, bring him to the pit top. By that time the paramedics had arrived.
Not only ambulance crews, but also the Westpac rescue helicopter took part in the exercise to add realism to the lesson. For many taking part, this was a rare close-up look at the equipment available to an injured worker once he's put on board the helicopter. The colliery is 105 years old, but its safety record is one of the best in the Hunter. The miners say that's mostly due to a positive attitude towards safety both above and below the ground.
Parents and students took their protest to the streets to stop the proposed closure of the Adamstown Heights Infant School. Hunter Director of Education Alan Beard marked Adamstown Heights and 4 other schools for closure, saying students could be accommodated in nearby larger schools. But the Adamstown Heights parents now say their school, with just 35 students, should be expanded to include a playgroup, a preschool and provide specialised classes for children with disabilities.
Children could come from all over the Hunter region to this centre because of its unique size. Children won't feel intimidated by the enormity of a playground. They'll be comfortable, they'll be secure, and in that kind of environment they will develop to their very, very best abilities.
The Director of Education has read the submission on the plan and described it as an imaginative idea worth further study. A firm decision on the future of the school is expected within 2 weeks. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
There's little sign of last night's flooding on Coorambung Street, but there's still an unmistakable odour. That smell first alerted residents that something unpleasant was happening.
Shortly after the storm started, just after 9, the top came off the manhole there and the sewerage started to pour out into the street and completely flooding it and continuing down the road. It was at least a foot deep. It took about half hour before they came out and started to clean up the area. Yeah.
Happy with the way it looks now?
Oh, they've worked well at clearing it up. It's a bit of a worry with the children though, knowing that all the sewerage has been over the nature strip and partly into the front yard.
It wasn't difficult for the Water Board to clear the blocked sewer line. After all, they deliberately closed it. The reason lies to the southeast of Adamstown, where engineers are about to complete the final connection of major sewerage lines into the new treatment plant at Burwood. Engineers are trying to cut the flow of sewage into this pit to allow them to finish the work. The line on Coorambung Street is one of several which runs into that main pipe. Hunter Water Board Deputy Managing Director Peter Michelle inspected the street this afternoon. He says engineers tested the capacity of the single line under normal conditions, but last night's storm was completely unexpected.
The bypass just wasn't effective enough in this particular area last night.
And the suggestion is that a lot of that water shouldn't have been in there at all.
Yes, it's an unfortunate side effect of the system that there are still a lot of inflow points into the sewerage which are not normal. There's some roof drainage connected and other factors like that which we're checking up on and getting rectified. We haven't at this stage checked this particular area, but I can tell you it'll be high on our priority list from now.
The MasterFoods factory will be one of the largest single industrial developments in Wyong Shire, using just over 10,000 square metres of their 24-hectare site in the Berkeley Vale Industrial Estate. Stage 1 of the plant will be a single-storey building housing state-of-the-art production lines, office space, high levels of automation and process control. Construction is scheduled to start in the first half of next year, with commissioning of the first production lines for mid-1991. Initially, 250 people will be employed, with employment swelling to an expected 500 in just 3 years. The move from Hillsdale in Sydney to Berkeley Vale and an expected growth in export could see the company trebling its annual turnover to $350 million a year by 1994.
The southbound vehicle slammed into the side of the F100 pickup truck, which police say had apparently veered across the highway into the path of the oncoming car. The sedan clipped the truck's rear wheels, also hitting a boat trailer being towed by the other vehicle. The 5-metre fiberglass vessel was catapulted about 20 metres from the point of impact. An off-duty ambulance officer administered first aid to the trapped motorist, who died shortly later of massive injuries. The 52-year-old driver of the truck escaped serious injury. He was admitted to Bulahdelah Hospital in a satisfactory condition and later released. It's understood he had left his previous address in Sydney and was heading to Tuncurry with his possessions loaded both in the truck and on the boat. One lane of the highway was closed for almost 3 hours while scientific police and members of the Accident Investigation Squad reconstructed events leading up to the tragedy. Traffic was light on the highway when the vehicles collided. Otherwise, police say the toll of injuries or death could have been higher. There were no passengers in either vehicle. Police say the crash is a grim warning to motorists as the nation prepares for another Christmas holiday exodus.
Well, it's the start of the school holidays. People will be towing, traffic will be a lot heavier. So obviously care, reducing your speed, especially when the conditions change, and securing your load, obviously, is so important, especially when things are getting so busy.